Hello and welcome to the SideNet M podcast. I'm Connor Burke and this is the place we'll discuss all the latest news and goings on in the world of football, play a couple of games and almost definitely throw in a tangent or two. I'm joined as always by my friend, my cousin, but most importantly my co-host Kieran Burke. Kieran, how are we getting on?
I'm good, thank you. Good evening. And it's an introduction that never seems to get old, even though it's the second time it's been done due to some mic failings.
Who needs a mic?
Who needs a mic? But yeah, the introductions are just beautiful every week. They hype me up. They get me ready for the hour ahead. I think you need to venture into the world of UFC or wrestling and get that voice up.
Mate, like a prime Bruce Buffer.
You are a prime Bruce Buffer. Get that man out immediately.
Mate, Buffer out, Burke in. I'm like Bruce Buffer if instead of like real energetic, let's get ready to rumble, it's more like just strolled in, getting his job done.
Get the job done.
Let's get ready to rumble, I guess. Let's go for in the blue corner. It's, I don't know, Steve.
Fucking Steve.
Do we care? Fight, whatever.
Fucking SideNet and pod. Games last week.
Yeah, done. Thanks for listening.
Good out. Was that an hour?
Yeah, close enough.
Minute 20.
Yeah.
That'll do. Next week then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, other than that, I'm good.
aside from depressed Bruce Buffer,
That's a meme format. That
aside from Bruce buffering,
Hey!
there we are, and we're back.
Hey!
There you go. Look at that. We've had a week off. In my week off, I have very specifically been engineering pause-based puns on Bruce Buffer's name. I'll tell you what, it's been a fantastic week.
I didn't get.
How about your own kids?
Well, I didn't get the memo on that, so I've just been depressed in a corner for the week. But it's been a great week.
Fantastic.
But yeah, no, it's been a decent.
Little depression break.
Yeah.
Aside from the depression,
aside from impending inevitable death, it's
don't know how we've ended up. Oh, she's been all right.
it's been a good week. I don't know how it's gone down this route. If there's any crisis hotlines out there, don't worry.
When they're clear,
I'm fine. Don't need to reach out. It's been a good week. Yeah. We'll see how the weekend ahead goes. But yeah, it's been a good little week. Thank you very much. How about yourself?
Fantastic. Well, it sounded midway through like you were trying to convince yourself. But
Well, it's the first step of the battle, isn't it? Get yourself one over.
yeah, I've been good. So we'll get straight into it, Kiers. We'll discuss this weekend's games coming up. We'll get our predictions in. But first of all, we'll have a little overview of last weekend's predictions. Our first draw, 7 apiece, Kieran. And my first correct prediction was Villa 3, Palace 1. The comeback there.
You got there in the end.
I actually got my second as well. We both got a joint correct prediction in Forest Burnley 1-1. Both said that. And you got Brighton 3, Man United 1 correct.
There you go.
No, you didn't. That's an absolute lie. You got Fulham 1, Luton 0 correct.
I was just thinking.
But you did. You had 3-0. You did. So
So
you weren't far off.
predicted them all in.
If United hadn't grown up and scored a goal, then you would have had this one. But the week overview score is 27 to Kieran, 19 to myself, and a 4-2 in Kieran's favour weekly score. So not a huge gap.
You're starting to kick into the gears.
Well, we're in exactly the same difference as we were last week because it was 7-0. But
oh yeah, good point. Well, you finally got a bloody thing right. So that always
back now. This is going to kick
Still
its
early
off.
doors. You know, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Oh, exactly. We obviously had one missed week, so no predictions were done because we weren't recording. So yeah, so straight on to the next. Be out 37.
Yeah, out of 7.
As the great leagues are.
Yeah, all the best.
Yeah. So we'll jump into this weekend, kids, and we'll start off with the Saturday 12:30 kickoff. Villa Brighton.
Yeah, I've gone well. The Brighton 3-0 prediction nearly came in exactly perfectly for me the last time out. So I've gone 3-0 Brighton again.
Okay.
In the hopes that there's no goal conceded against them this time. Well, not conceded against them. They don't concede a goal this time. So I've gone 3-0 Brighton. I just fancy them. They're looking good. Such good depth in their squad. I can't see anything other than a Brighton win, and I think they'll win comfortably as well. So 3-0 Brighton for me.
Yeah, so I've gone 2-1 Brighton. I think it's going to be a bit closer than you. Both coming off of big wins over the weekend. Brighton beating Bournemouth 3-1 and Villa beating Chelsea. But as you say, I think Brighton, I've got a bit less comfortable than yourself. But
is beating Chelsea a big result nowadays? That's the real question. We'll get into that, I guess, but
Yeah, we'll discuss that. But a good win for an uneven Villa side.
yeah, a win away from home is always a
Yeah.
good result. But yeah, Chelsea are fucking dreadful. But
Oh, it's you. Well, we might as well get into it now, kids. Like with Chelsea, all the talk build up, and we fell into this trap as well. All the talk before the season started
yeah,
was this is a new Chelsea side mentality wise.
Yeah.
They're not. It's not Graham Potter. It's not Frank Lampard.
yeah.
I'm actually trying to remember. Thomas Tuchel was at the start of last season, wasn't it? If I'm going to group him in.
Who closed out the season for Chelsea? That is a very good.
Lampard closed the season out. Potter was before then. I'm sure for the first couple of games of the season it was Tuchel. But that's like the fact that this is a conversation does say a lot about.
In fact, you can't remember. We can't remember they've had so many managers in this.
You can't remember who started the last season.
It's kind of crazy.
Is mad. But just in general, it's meant to be under new management, Pochettino, a strong manager, a Premier League proven manager, and they just look uneven again.
Yeah, they. Ashamedly, I think I put them to come fourth this season at our start of season. But as you said, there was that bit of optimism.
Yeah.
Started off with a draw at Liverpool, and you look where Liverpool are now. That's a very good result for them.
Well,
to
we
start
discussed
the
it
season.
at the time.
Yeah, because they were both teams. Both had question marks over. I think Liverpool have answered them, and obviously Chelsea, on the other hand, have gone the complete other way. And they just haven't built that confidence from that first game.
Yeah.
Admittedly, they have struggled with injuries, so you know what I mean. You've got to factor that in. And Nkunku was a massive loss for them before the season even started. I think he would have really made a difference to them.
Their biggest problem at the minute is up front.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what you say with like Nkunku was injured, but Jackson's just not turned up like they were expecting. They've lost a lot of the games they've lost by one goal. I think each of the games they've lost by one goal.
I'd enjoyed the chat recently about their goal of the month competition, and Jackson in the Carabao Cup saved them last night. I didn't see the goal. I heard it's a tap-in, but he's got himself a goal of the month award for that.
There you go. So, he strolled into it.
He's living life at the moment, but yeah.
Well, they do play Saturday. They can just about sneak in a goal of the month, I think, because on the weekend they have Fulham, and they are actually another one of our prediction games. So we'll jump into that as well as we're discussing Chelsea. It's actually Monday, so they have avoided. So there you go, Jackson walking into a goal of the month. There you go. Put that one on your shelf, Nick, mate. Miss Jackson. No one's going to be apologising to her. She's going to be delighted.
Oh, Poch will be blasting out. Sorry, Miss Jackson, if he drops him after that one.
Well, he won't be for real if he misses some great chances again on Monday.
Sidenet and Pod, where we will work in those Outcast songs just for you.
We're brought to you by Outcast.
Sponsor us. Are they even still together?
I think they came back together for some kind of festival performance, like a one-off situation. So maybe we can get them back.
So the sponsorship's still possible.
Yeah. End of the season, we'll get them in. We won't have them do Hey Yo. I won't get them do one. We'd like an album track.
Oh no, I want Hey Yo.
Nah.
I'm sorry. Let's shut that down right now. Outcast, if you're listening, it's Hey Yo or nothing. Put your money on the table. We'll have to put our money on the table.
I think we're going to be putting a lot of money on the table.
We have to. But yeah, back to Fulham Chelsea. I've got 0-0. Speaking of Chelsea's problems with scoring goals, obviously not scored a league goal for a long time now.
Yeah.
I can't see them scoring with Fulham. Fulham are quite solid defensive team. So yeah, I can't really see either team scoring. Obviously Fulham drew 0 last week with Palace. So they've got a clean sheet in their locker. Chelsea struggling to score. For me, it's got a goalless draw written all over it for me, to be honest.
Yeah, that's one I can definitely understand. I've got 1-0 Chelsea.
Yeah.
As you say, Fulham have looked tight and steady, but they have still been conceding goals. So I think to bring back a wonderful turn of phrase, I don't think it'll be a tight goal fest. I just think it'll be a tight game. Yeah, it'll just be a tight situation. But I think Chelsea will end up squeezing it through.
Lucky them.
Well, we're usually delighted when that happens. So yeah, so I've got 1-0 Chelsea, but I don't think it's going to be convincing.
Not one to watch.
Not one to watch.
Is it a televised game?
It's Monday night. I think we can all find some different plans to do Monday night.
Yeah, well, I'll try.
11th against 14th. I don't think.
Thriller.
Yeah. But they do need to start turning it around, because it's what got them last season, is they just weren't able to get a run of a few games. They weren't able to get consistency. And that's what led them to languish in the position that they finished in last season.
I've seen a scary stat about their 2023 form. that they'd be second from bottom, like 2 points ahead of Everton, based on their form throughout. Obviously, a league's not played in a calendar year, but that's really worrying for a Chelsea perspective.
Yeah, 100%.
And as you said, they need to pick up. I just can't see when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're not really showing any promising signs that you think, it might turn around now.
The thing is, what is showing promise, as I say, is their defence.
Yeah.
Like, they seem to have a very solid defence.
They've got the foundation.
They've got the foundation. It's forward, and when you have the quantity of players that Chelsea have, combined with a few quality players, there's no excuse for their lack of goals this season so far. Yeah. And this wouldn't be a question I'd be asking for many clubs under new management, unless their club's in the bottom of the table. How long do you give Poch?
Well, Chelsea.
That's what I mean.
How long would I give Poch? I'd definitely give him the whole season.
But
Chelsea, if they're near the bottom at Christmas, I'd seriously.
You think they're giving him that long?
I think they'll give him until Christmas purely because who would you bring in now? The backlash they probably. Well, let me just say, if they lost really heavily in a game against rivals, that often we see a lot.
Yeah.
That's like the trigger point for a sacking. So we play them, I think, October 28th. So
hello.
You never
First
know.
First game back after international break.
Mikel could put his Spanish nail in Poch's coffin, which would be a beautiful sight.
Let's speak that into existence.
Let's speak 5-0. We've been on the receiving end of so many shit results. We spoke about
this in our Arsenal chat. How often has Arsenal had a really big win against a rival? I don't think it's happened. No. Not times we've been battered by them.
Yeah.
And in that discussion, we did say a couple of little tweaks here and there, but we did say 10 points in this little break before international window.
Yeah.
And we'll win the next 2 games. And we also discussed in that...
You're brushing off.
1 second. I'm getting there. And we also discussed in that, well, I said, how we're going to beat Man City 6-0. And that's also something that's both beating a rival and is definitely going to happen in the next 2 weeks.
I love how casually that... Just win your next 2, as if City's one of those 2. Simple, lads. Win your next 2. That's all we got to do.
And for us recently, we're at City at home as well, which is, in terms of conceding goals, a lot more dangerous on our home record.
Well, Ramsdale, we could... I love Ramsdale, but maybe Raya keeps home clean sheets, because he's already kept a home clean sheet. So maybe those days...
But he did also concede at home as well. No, he conceded at home.
No, he's not conceded yet.
He was in goal against Spurs, wasn't he?
Oh, fuck, yeah. What am I going on about?
He
kept a clean sheet at
the game before.
Let me trawl through the archives. I think I was trying to erase that Spurs game from my memory. Oh no, yeah, 1-0 away at Everton and then home v PSV in the Champions League.
And then
so yeah,
home.
Ignore me.
So he kept an away clean sheet. It's the home again.
Yeah, we're still.
But the thing, like the Ramsdale thing, is the most overblown debate.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Because for me, it's 2 of the most equally level players I think I have seen battling for the same position. Neither. I don't know about your opinion as a goalkeeper, but neither goalkeeper for me has an edge. It's 2 8 out of 10 keepers, and it just so happens that it seems like Arteta has a preference.
In terms of like, if we go back to more old school goalkeeping, I think they're fairly even. They're both good shot stoppers. Raya's probably a bit better off his line in terms of coming up for crosses. He's a bit more dominant, which is strange because I think he's actually the shorter keeper. Ramsdale's a bit more probably roping that area, but I think I'd messaged when we were with that game on the weekend v Spurs.
Before, yeah.
I feel a lot more comfortable with Ramsdale at the ball at his feet, and even don't really want to go into detail on the Carabao Cup week, but the game last night, Ramsdale, ball at his feet, fizzing the ball out along the floor to players at halfway line. Like, I just think that really helps us build up. Ray is brilliant with the ball at his feet as well, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like he's a fucking ancient goalkeeper that can't play out from the back. But I think Ramsdale's a lot more comfortable doing it, and it looks more natural for Ramsdale, I think.
Yeah.
Personally, I think Ramsdale might have one more mistake in him than Raya. But I still prefer him. He's a younger keeper.
That's the thing that people push a bit more, isn't it? Is the mistakes that Ramsdale has in him. But I don't think mistake feels too strong a word for Ramsdale.
Yeah. I think he's he's prone to perhaps a little blip,
Yeah.
which usually our defenders, because of the quality, will get them out of. But going back to the point, I think it's ridiculous. People are painting it in a negative light that we've got competition. Any other position on the pitch, it would be seen as a positive. It's just because you don't usually see it with keepers.
And when other clubs are doing this in the next few years, when Man City are doing this, it's going to be a masterstroke. When Liverpool are doing this, it's going to be a masterstroke. And yes, that is Arsenal bias. I'm not stupid, it is. But it does feel like whenever it's us that does something, and it happened under Wenger as well, like the easiest example to use is the amount of flack that Wenger got when he was talking about fourth place, and now that is like the height of a lot of clubs' ambitions. But when Wenger said it, it was embarrassing. It was and that does seem to be the thing that happens to Arsenal fairly regularly.
Yeah, no, definitely. The only thing I've not liked about the situation, other than the media frenzy, is obviously Ramsdale seems a great guy, and it's more just from a personal point of view. You know, I don't like to see him get pushed out, but anyway, it is what it is. It's a good problem to have. Yeah,
definitely. When you've got a backup keeper like that, or not even a backup keeper, it's like 1.5 rather than a 1 and a 2. But we'll round up on Fulham there. Fulham Chelsea, which is where that conversation did start. You said 0-0. I said 1-0 Chelsea, and Villa Brighton. I had 2-1 Brighton. You had 3-0 Brighton.
Yes.
Yep. So next game on the predictions is West Ham and Sheffield United. A Sheffield United team. Ooh, that was bad.
I think I've previously said on the pod about Sheffield United being solid defensively. They're hard to break down, which has been the case in every other game. That was a real shock, I think. Really strange one.
It was just one of those where as soon as the second or third goal comes in, it's just
slow. They couldn't stop the flow. Yeah. Well, I think I've gone 2-1 West Ham.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about, their confidence will likely be shot to pieces, it could be more than that. But I think from what I've seen from Sheffield United this season, that game aside, they're a tough team to break down. If we completely ignore that game, they're a tough team to break down, and they do create chances in a game. I think that is slightly unfair game to... You know what I mean? Like, we're just talking about Arsenal games we've been battered before. It happens to big teams.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's not exactly like, pure reactionary. Sheffield United, even though they've struggled this season, that means they're losing every game 8-0 now.
Yeah.
But I do think because West Ham have been strong this season, they'll edge the win. I still think Sheffield United will pick up points this season. I'm going to stick to what I've said. I see them just staying up. But I've gone 2-1 West Ham in that game. West Ham have looked good so far this season.
Well, they looked good in their loss last weekend to Liverpool, did West Ham. They've looked good in general across the season. I've got West Ham to win 3-1. As you say there, we know from experience, very difficult to go into a game after you've been beaten so heavily. I think Sheffield United are going to go into that game, and it's either going to be an ambition of play as defensively as you humanly possibly can.
Yeah.
It's the sort of game that when you go after that, you don't want to lose.
Yeah.
Winning's not that important. It's you don't want to lose.
Yeah.
You want to get some sort of semblance of bounce back after a game like that. So maybe they'll go in like that, or maybe they'll do the opposite and they'll be like, okay, put that game to one side. We're winning this game. Let's go. And I think if they go with that mentality, it will actually play into West Ham's hands more because they can work around that. And to be fair, that doesn't seem like the way that Sheffield United play football at all under Paul Heckingbottom.
I think the danger if they concede early, though, that confidence already being low, I can see big head loss there. So I hope for their sake they, keep it tight early doors and then they can actually grow into the game a bit. But
currently bottom of the table as well, 1 point.
Yeah,
on a little collection of teams on 1 point.
Yeah, the new teams have really struggled so far, haven't they? They've not really got going yet.
And Sheffield United have looked the best of those. Again,
I think so, yeah.
You put that 8-0 to one side.
Yeah,
they have looked the best of those teams.
So.
Like you think you hold on for 30 seconds against Tottenham, and that's a huge point for them.
There's another game I think they threw away. Late goal as well. Was it Everton?
Yeah.
Somewhere they threw away. They will go and throw either a win or draw. So, as we say, I think Sheffield United have the strongest base there. That it's hard to put an 8-0 aside, but if we can.
Well, those things are usually blips, aren't they? You look back in history, and I say history, I mean like recent history, the last 5-10 years.
Yeah.
And the majority of times they are blips. You do sometimes get teams who get battered on the regular, but more often than not, it's blips, and they won't get beaten by more than 2-3 goals now across the season.
Yeah.
But West Ham looks strong. We both got West Ham to win that game there. But the team that beat West Ham was Liverpool last weekend against Spurs, who won 2-2 against Arsenal on Sunday.
Yeah.
Congratulations to them once again.
That's going out on DVD shortly, I reckon.
Oh, of course, it'll be signed by Son twice to...
They've not celebrated a draw this much since we won the league at White Hart Lane.
And we're there we go. Oh, actually embarrassing.
It is the history of the top.
Like, two things that were embarrassing about that game and the reaction to it. One was Arsenal fans reacting like we'd got beaten 4-0. Like, I understand being annoyed by the game, being annoyed by drop points. That makes sense. But some of the reaction to it was the most sky is falling nonsense. And on the opposite side, Spurs fans acting like they'd just beaten us 4-0 was also embarrassing.
With half our squad out injured as well.
You're a good-looking team at the minute with a good manager. Have some self-respect.
The thing is, I understand enjoying... Like, they've not picked up points at the Emirates for a while.
Course,
so, be happy you got a point.
Exactly.
But don't act like that's the greatest result.
Yeah.
Rice has gone off injured at half-time. We had players out injured.
Regardless of the content, if that had happened and they'd won, by all means.
Yeah.
Like, if we'd have had 4 players sent off when you won, react like it's a massive win, because it is. But when you don't, it's like that whole thing in the World Cup in 2010 when a US newspaper printed USA wins 0-0, or wins 1-1, when the whole Rob Green thing happened with them. Yeah. And it's that whole thing, it breeds a mentality sometimes of tin pot. And when you have started as well as Tottenham have, that's a very stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
Because they looked good. They
look good in spells.
They look good in spells. They played well. Massive mentality to come back from them.
Yeah.
And yet at the end of it, you're talking about an embarrassing tin pot reaction.
Yeah.
But saying all that, I have got them to draw 2-2 again this weekend myself. I think both teams are looking strong. Both teams haven't lost yet.
Yeah.
Liverpool seem to be pulling it together, despite what I said before the season started. They're looking very good. Their new signings are looking very good. An extra one, the players that didn't perform or didn't get as much game time last season as they may have wanted, they're looking very good.
Just as I predicted.
Just as Kieran John predicted, even if he couldn't say a player's name, he still predicted that they'd do well. And it's another big test for Spurs, and they passed the Man United test, which for big teams doesn't look like much of a test at the minute, but they passed the Man United test. They passed the Arsenal tests.
Yeah,
They didn't lose, as we were discussing there a moment ago. I'd say they passed that test enough. Not so much as the bloody Grim Reaper meme I saw the other day of Ange going door to door, but I'd say they passed the test, and it's another big test for them.
Yeah. I've gone 3-2 Liverpool, so similar scoreline. I think both defences aren't the tightest ship. Liverpool, probably, you look at their defence, you would say, without writing them off too much, they are a bit past it from what they once
That's
was.
their weakness. Yeah, they're very top-heavy, that Liverpool team.
So, I think both teams vulnerable at the back, but I just see Liverpool edging it. I think Spurs perhaps have got ahead of themselves a little bit, and I think if the players feed into that as well, it's a dangerous kind of path to go down. I think, though, mentality-wise, if you look at Arsenal last season, as we built through the season, I'm not comparing to say Spurs will challenge for the title this year necessarily, but when we started picking, we won away at Spurs, it was like that shift in the players, the confidence to be like, we've not won here for years and we've finally done it. Obviously, you look at the end of the season, then we couldn't quite get over the hurdle of Man City that we'd not got over for years. But games like that, I know it's been very reactionary. It's a 2-2, but even them getting a point, Arsenal, I can see why the fans are excited by it. But you do have to rein it in a bit and realise this is where we're at. Are we realistically going to challenge? Could they have killed us off? First half hour of that game, I was sat there thinking we're going to batter these lot because we were so dominant, and then they came back in. So fair play to them.
That miss,
big miss.
That Jesus miss was a big turning point in that game.
Yeah, definitely. But going back to Liverpool Spurs, I think Spurs will narrowly lose,
Yeah.
but I think, they have looked good. They've looked good.
And the big thing that Spurs need to keep thinking about, because it's very easy to get your head caught away when you start as well as they have, is it's a project.
Yeah.
And you do need to, as we've seen over the last couple of years with Arsenal, talking from that experience, it's a project. You need to look at it that way. And the other thing we said is, at the start of the season, what's success for Spurs? And we both agreed Europa League is success for Spurs. And I don't think that's changed. I think Champions League would be massive if they were to manage it.
Yeah.
But I think from a Spurs perspective, you need to look at if we can stay at this level to the end of the season, finish top 6, and then the way you can shoot off of that with this Spurs team.
Yeah.
So you can't get ahead of yourself. But they have started well, as you say, a tight loss for you. I think it's going to be a draw against a Liverpool team who we've not really spoken too much about there. We sort of ended up speaking a bit more about Spurs, which I can only apologise about. But a Liverpool team that have started well themselves and are already being touted as pushing off and a 2-horse race situation, but way, way, way too early to be saying anything about any title race or teams that are going off. I think it's going to be a few teams. I can see Man City dropping down on a little poor run at some point. That's really what I'm expecting from City.
I'm praying.
I really expect it, because it doesn't feel like with Man City, it doesn't feel like they are playing very well as so much as they're just coasting along.
So clinical though.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the
and I
hard
feel
thing.
like sometimes there'll be a point where they'll get a tight draw. And then, I know this doesn't usually happen with this City team, but this is what I'm starting to feel. It just feels like they're not quite there.
Yeah.
Despite the results maybe saying otherwise.
I think some of, the impact of losing, I know it wasn't massive, but they lost Gundogan, they lost Mahrez. Having a few of those older heads in the
100%.
dressing room, I think
100%.
That's my one hope for the season, is that because they've lost a tiny bit of that experience.
Yeah.
I know they've strengthened well. They've got the likes of Núñez in. They've got Gvardiol in, who looks a very good defender. But not being in those positions before, I'm hoping might play into...
Be an interesting one. We'll see.
Yeah, but we'll see.
We'll go on to our last prediction there, and then we'll have an FPL check. Here's Nottingham Forest against Brentford, the big Sunday 2 p.m. game.
Well, I'm going to stick to the winning formula for me. 1-1.
I've got exactly the same thing.
Every Brentford game, you either go 1-1 or 2-2, depending on who they're playing.
Yeah, two teams that have started very poorly, 12th and 13th respectively.
Yeah, not looked great.
Yeah,
they've not
coming off a poor loss to Everton.
Yeah, big loss for Brentford. But I still think both teams have quality.
Oh,
in
of course, we're only 6 games in.
Hard for Brentford with Tony obviously not available at the moment, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Mbeumo seem to have stepped up. They've had a poor result, but I still think they've got quality. On the other hand, Notts Forest have looked good in parts. They obviously narrow loss to us and United. Probably a tough kind of start to the season for them. I think they'll cancel each other out, but I think both teams will be fine at the end of the season. Yeah,
Brentford's biggest problem is they've not had a poor, in terms of games, they've not had a tricky start to the season at all. With the games that they've had, you'd want them to be a lot higher in the table, but they've had silly draws. Obviously, the Kieran philosophy, but they've had a lot of very silly draws so far. They've drawn, I think, 3 games, and all 3 of those games have been very, very winnable.
Yeah,
so I think that is definitely their biggest problem, and I don't think that's going to change this weekend. I think draw against Nottingham Forest, same as yourself, though, Kiz. So predictions all rounded up. We'll once again jump into those next week and have a little update of how we get on. But before we stop for this half and this weekend preview, FPL from last weekend, Kiz. I don't necessarily want to talk about it, but...
Well, it wasn't groundbreaking for myself either. Obviously, we both didn't do great. I ended up the weekend on 55 points, yourself on 57.
Big 2-point gain. Big 2-point gain.
2-point gain. I'm still sitting top of our mini league, but obviously others in our mini league have made ground on us. You now sit yourself in third.
Yeah, third out of 5 in a mini league with us and some mates. But between myself and yours, Kiz, 14-point difference there behind you.
Still early doors.
Yeah, an average score of 68, so we were both well below the average last week, which is not where you want to be.
Weren't a good week, and points on my bench again. killed me. Gusto, whatever.
Oh,
the
it's
player's
a
name is.
10 point difference there. -2 for
Yeah,
Gusto,
so that
8
was
for
a bit.
Gahey on the bench.
Leno on the bench as well, but I can live with that a bit more.
Yes.
I had Anana starting, it got 7. But yeah, one of those weeks we try and put it behind us,
Yeah.
and we go again for next week, and hope we pick up.
Yeah, a little bit saved by Saka there with 13. Estupinian and Ederson both on 6. Isak, I was watching that Newcastle game, I was getting more and more frustrated as goals went in, not
Yeah.
seeing Isak's name on that score sheet at all, and he's sort of rescued a little bit there by coming on and getting 5. But him along with Diaz and Rashford, Isak, Diaz and Rashford, they're very much my on the firing lineup at the
Don't
moment.
know if you saw Isak went off injured last night.
Well, that pushes him. I didn't actually see that. No,
I don't know if it's a serious one, but I heard he went off with a knock.
Well, he's not been starting at the moment. Wilson seems to be their starting striker as we stand. And just in general, he's not been pulling the points like I want him to, similar to Rashford and Diaz, where all 3 of them have been underwhelming me. Whether that's a change I do this weekend, I'm not sure, because I think the fixtures on my team
Yeah.
aren't too bad at the moment. So I don't know. But obviously, Haaland captured against Wolves. I think it's another one you got to be silly not to.
No brainer.
It's boring, but it's boring for a reason.
Yeah, it's got to be done, really, isn't it?
But before we wrap up there, any FPL games there, Kiers, that you're looking at as your big point ventures? Who are you looking at as your your differentials where you think they could bring you in, or any changes you might be making?
We spoke about how bad Chelsea have been and they can't score. I do still have Sterling. I brought him on after that little purple patch where he scored a couple of goals. I can't remember who they won well against, and they looked like they might start kind of kicking on. And because I've had injuries and other bits and bobs, I've not had the chance to take him out. Gusto got a straight red last week, so I had to take him out. He's banned for 3 games. Brought in Botman,
Okay.
and he's now showing as potentially injured.
Fantastic.
So I could have had a stinker there, but I think in terms of differentials, potentially Diaby. I know I've gone Brighton 3-0 in that, but Villa could give them a game. Villa, it depends what Villa show up.
One of your boys then, one of your classic boys there, Diaby.
Yeah, and Alvarez has done well for me all season.
Yeah, he's been bringing your points in.
I will hope he continues in that vein.
Yeah, he's very much one of them players that I'm sort of teetering on because everyone's going to have him.
Yeah.
But does it get to a point where you need him because he's so regularly getting points in? He's in that tricky space at the moment. But yeah, so we'll see how we get on next weekend. But up next is the return of In the Bin. So up next, we have the return of In the Bin. That's a segment that we've only done once on the pod so far, Kiers. But we'll pick a category each alongside a third free hit category. Myself and Kieran will pick something from that category they want to throw in the bin, get rid of, gone forever. We'll have a little debate and then we'll decide which is the winning category and we throw it into the bin. And for legal reasons, it's nothing like any room-based shows you would have seen or heard before because this is a bin. Totally different.
Completely different concept entirely.
So where should we start off there this week, Kiers? I'll let you pick your category.
So let's go with drinks. Okay. And that can be anything, soft drinks, alcoholic drinks, anything.
As long as it's a liquid.
Anything you can consume in liquid form.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. So do you want to, it's your category? Do you want to kick us off? What have you gone with?
Yeah, so
sell it to me.
I've gone hipster beers.
Oh, for
so the likes of your Beaver Towns, your pale ales. Yeah. I'm just not a fan. I'm not some of these one of these wanky people. It's like I have to have this beer. This tastes, but they taste like shit. They taste like what I'd imagine is it if you mix like egg white in with like an alcoholic drink, you'd get this. It just. Yeah. I remember us being at an Arsenal game a couple years ago now.
Yeah.
And we went back to the 12 pins, which
yes,
Arsenal listeners will know well. Yeah. And we were ordering lager of some description, and they were giving us Beaver Town, and it tasted like shit.
Yeah.
And even in my drunken state, I knew I didn't like it. Usually, when I get to a certain level of piss, I'll drink anything. Yeah. And getting charged like £7.50 for the privilege of it. So yeah, these like hipstery beers.
Yes, this beer has been brewed in the woods of Norwich for 13 days.
That's a scary thought.
For 13 years. Oh, you can really taste the nutty note. Piss off.
Give me a fucking lager.
It is very old man.
Yeah.
But for me, and this is something we've discussed before, and it's maybe not a popular statement, but for me, most beers taste the same.
Yeah.
So if I'm not going to be wanting to, much like you, not going to be wanting to pay like £7 for some sort of wanky brewery
Yeah.
in Camden,
Yeah.
like I'll just have a £3 Carlin, or let's have some respect.
Carlin, darling.
Some £4 Carlin or something.
Well, I'll push out to a Starra Prom.
Oh, I know.
A cheeky Starra.
But Beavertown's not too hipster, is it? Beavertown's quite a main.
Well,
like,
yeah.
I'm sure the hipsters would tell you it's not hipster.
It's
anyway.
hipstery mainstream.
But it's those kind of ones.
Yeah.
It's
that vibe.
Yeah. An attention-seeking beer.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
I'm not a fan.
And, well, I've actually gone for a similar branch. It's less the drink. I think you're similar with that. It's less the drink. It's more who drinks the drink. What the drink represents.
Yeah.
Everything around the drink.
Yeah.
And I've gone for coffee.
Okay.
And, like, personally, I don't like the coffee. For me, it's like liquid dirt.
Yeah.
But if there wasn't the whole cult around
Yeah.
coffee, I wouldn't mind. It'd be like, not for me.
Yeah.
I don't like it personally, but but it's the whole, I have to have my morning coffee.
Yeah.
It's the memes. It's the constant, like,
It's a personality.
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly.
Like,
I was trying to find some the other day. And I just googled coffee memes. It was like, it's a massive cup. Yeah. It's like, my one mug of coffee for the day. And it's like, I want to walk into the sea.
Yeah. Don't talk to me till I've had my on the mugs as well. You get your yeah. You know what? I buy into that. I'm gonna have to like go against it slightly because I don't mind like an iced coffee, but I'm not like one of these people. I have to have a coffee every single day. I have to have my morning coffee, but I don't mind the odd like caramel frappuccino, a little iced caramel latte.
If you put coffee in the bin, there are other things you go with.
Yeah, but so I completely I get where you're coming from though. Like the kind of cult around.
Oh, it's very similar to the cult around your hipster beers. It's just. It's a similar stretch of people because you've got all your hipster. I've just been in Australia for a year. I've been well around the whole, oh no, you can't have this coffee.
Yeah.
It's coffee.
Yeah.
Like, no, it has to be from bloody Paul's Coffee Bar because they make great coffee.
Yeah.
Like, what does Paul do to his beans?
You don't want to know. He was in that Norwich fucking forest as well.
We get
for 11 days.
It's that whole thing. It's the awful wine on-esque memes.
Yeah.
It's the whole personality type. It's less, as I say, I think it's the same for both of us.
Yeah.
It's less the drink.
Yeah.
It's what the drink represents.
Yeah.
And for me, what coffee represents is some of the most annoying, frustrating, wanky people.
Yeah.
And if it's in the bin, they're up my life, kiss.
Yeah. You know what? I agree with everything you said. My slight pushback is, so we're both saying it's more the hype around it. I personally prefer the taste of certain coffees, whereas with the wanky beers, I dislike the taste as well. So you've got that all mixed in with the fact it tastes like shit as well.
Yeah. Well, as I say, I don't drink coffee.
Yeah.
But I don't make that my personality.
Should we just put wanky people in the bin?
Well, that could be another category. Hipsters are coming for hipsters. Well, what year is this? 2013 coming for hipsters. Bloody hell.
Oh, it feels like a Tumblr.
All of Camden, we're coming for you.
Oh God, Camden getting the bin. But yeah, I'm gonna fight my corner for the hipster beers. But I think the point as a whole is for those.
I'll give you 20 seconds, Kears, uninterrupted. Sell me on beer or on getting rid of hipster beers.
You're paying fucking £7.50. £7 bastard 50, let me emphasise, for something that doesn't even taste nice, makes it look like a top prick, and you're getting fucking fleeced out of all your money for it. What's the point? Why are you doing it? Get yourself a Starra Barsh. Get yourself any other drink. Do not drink that shite. Everything it represents, get in the bin.
Okay. A very convincing argument there, Kiz. Coffee, it tastes like if you put dirt in a blender. It isn't good. You only like it because it makes you feel awake. You only like it because it makes you hyper. You only like it because it's the same as giving a child a pack of Skittles. You don't like coffee because it tastes good. You like coffee because you can make it your personality type. coffee, get in el bin.
Another compelling argument there.
Thank you.
It's tough. For me, I can't put coffee in the bin as someone who has a coffee every now and then.
As you say, I don't drink these extra drinks.
Yeah.
But you have, if you get rid of coffee, you get rid of other things as well, like tiramisu. The base of tiramisu is coffee, and I love a tiramisu.
Yeah, it's true.
I think coffee. I might have gone too broad with coffee.
Yeah.
Because if you get rid of coffee, there's other things that coffee come alongside. So I think hipster beers.
We're edging hipster beers.
I think we're edging hipster beers. I think we're going 1-0.
Good argument for both, though.
Yeah.
That could have gone either way.
Both awful drinks drunk by awful people.
Yeah. So, next up.
1-0, Kieran, John. Would you like to do the honours?
So, hipstery, shitty beers that cost £7 and above. You getting in the bin.
Thank you very much. Bin. Okay, the next round, Kieran, is my category. And I've gone for crowds. So like things that go on in the crowds. It can be a specific fan base if you want to.
Yeah.
It can be something that crowds do. Anything like that. So it's crowd work. The category is like crowd situations.
After you.
Okay, so Kieran, you've heard my complaints on this thing many times. I think I may have mentioned it on the pod, I'm not sure before. But I was at the Women's World Cup in Australia over the summer. I went to some incredibly competitive games at various stages. I went to group games, I went to the last 16, I went to the quarter-final, I went to the semi-final, I went to the final. And in every single one of those games, in World Cup competitive, close result games, they were doing the Mexican wave. And I tell you, I don't think I've ever known anger to course through my veins like looking to my left and seeing a tsunami of people coming towards me, one after the other, standing up and sitting down as they approach me, and hearing people next to me, sometimes kids, sometimes, oh, look, it's coming. And I'm sitting there in the middle of it with a face that can only be described as the face of a smacked arse. I've never known irrational anger, and I'm well aware that I shouldn't have this level of sheer ferocity towards something that is meant for a bit of fun. But honestly, the anger that courses through my veins isn't healthy. Like, you're at a football game to watch football, and instead of watching the game and watching a World Cup, at an exhibition game, it's fine. Like, whatever. At a friendly, go for it. But you're at a World Cup game. You're at a competitive fixture. And instead of watching the game that you paid to see, you're going to stand up and sit down like an absolute massive tit.
What I'm hearing is you didn't participate in a Mexican wave.
Oh, mate, I was leading them.
Oh, that's good to know.
Oh, mate, king of the Mexican
Don't want
wave.
to be a pipe.
Oh, exactly, of course.
In a World Cup semi-final.
Oh,
of all places.
Every single World Cup game. Like, and then you've got people like, oh, they're doing it. Oh, they sit down. And like, in my head, every time someone like didn't continue and stopped it, I was basically cheering like I was a guy. I was like, get in, come. Honestly, kids, Mexican waves, bin. What you got against that?
You know what? It's going to be hard to argue against that because
I will be honest. I don't think you're winning this one.
I think if I try to argue against, I will get the wrath come across at me after the passion that's gone into that. But I'm going to come in because I feel I've got a very good one.
What you got for me?
I'm going people that leave before the end of the game in close games.
Okay.
So fair enough. Like we were at Arsenal PSV the other week.
Yep.
I think we might have left 91st minute around then.
Just after they the time.
I would never leave, and I think it's ridiculous when people leave like 1-1 close game. That's what you're paying the money for. That's the best part of the game. That's where the tension is, the excitement. You see the scenes, last minute goals, the celebrations that go into it, fucking piling on people you've never met before. That is the beauty of a live sporting event. For you to pay your hard-earned money to then leave a game for the best part of the game, it makes no sense to me. And even if you're, the only slight understanding is like, if you've got a really long journey, but even then, like, why go? I'm sorry, but why go if you're going to miss the best part of the game and pretty much what you're paying the money for is why go? Like some of the best games we've been to, like Arsenal-Liverpool last season where we won 3-2. Even got a throw in Arsenal chat in the other segment.
Look at that. You can't be stopped.
Thought I'd weave it in. But like that is the best part of the game and essentially what you're paying your money for. So for me, if you go into a game and leaving early in a tight, just a caveat, tight game, fair enough. Like the other week,
if it's 2 or more nil,
the game's
and you're
done.
in the 90th minute,
the game's done. You got to get to the sport.
Yeah. So some people would be like, "Oh, 2-0," but I think 2-0 in the 90th minute.
Yeah. You got to get to the Weatherspoons.
Yeah, exactly. You need to
beat the crowd.
But like that's the thing. Like if it's 2 or more nil, then fair enough. If it's 1-0, if you're drawing, then let's just say, what's the point?
Yeah. So for me, in the bin.
I can get that.
On the other hand, Mexican waves, man.
I'm not going with it, don't get me wrong, but I can get that one. There's no drama like the last few minutes when teams are like going all out for a game or for a goal, I should say. That is where football comes to its best and you're leaving for it.
Yeah, makes no sense.
Yeah, 100%. But on the reverse, have you ever wanted to participate in a Mexican wave, Kieran?
Not over the age of about 8 years old, probably.
Yeah, fantastic.
But if that goes in the bin, how am I going to get a hello from my neighbour Carlos every morning?
You can do a Mexican fist bump, win the clear.
Okay. So let's just clarify: if Mexican waves go in the bin, a Mexican fist bump is still still fine.
A Mexican person can still wave hello.
Okay, that's right.
So
I wanted to clear that up.
Just for the sake of you, Kieran, I merely mean the Mexican wave that was started in the 1986 Mexican World Cup.
Okay.
Why it's called a Mexican wave.
Oh,
yeah.
Little stat.
Little fact for you there, fact fans.
Side net and pod, you get the the facts as well as
not that you can say the word facts. Apparently, you get the facts.
Brilliant.
You cold?
Yeah, I am. Pick up a penguin as well.
But yeah, it adds nothing to the games. If anything, it actively takes away from games. I found myself getting more angry, and yes, this is on me a little bit, but I found myself getting more angry about the Mexican waves than watching the football sometimes. And again, that is my own fault. I am well aware.
That could be a you problem. It's not one for in the bin. We'll pick that up separately.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, but it's the talk around them. Because when you're not participating in the Mexican wave, you have to keep an eye on it. Yeah. Make sure it's still going on. You have to make sure that people are still standing up and boo them if they don't. Absolute heroes of humanity that don't stand up for a Mexican wave. And it's just an absolute disgrace. I hate it with the passion that most people reserve for hardened criminals. And if it doesn't go in the bin, I'm leaving the pot.
Yeah, at risk of getting absolutely thumped across this room, I'll let you do the honours.
I feel like I've been building my whole life for this moment. Mexican waves, and even more so, every single person that likes them, participates in them, or wants to see them, get in the bin. That felt good.
Can I just say as well, the amount of times I heard... we have a weekly catch-up call when Con was in Australia. On a weekly basis, I would get at least a 5-minute rant about a Mexican wave that had been started. Pretty harmless stuff, but this man next to me
harmless.
Was...
Couldn't believe it.
Actual rage. I could hear the venom.
I still am.
Still not quite over it, but you know what, Con? I hope it gives you some closure. It's in the bin now. We can park it.
Okay, the final round, Kiers. We're one apiece.
A bit rogue.
It's free hit.
Free hit.
So you can do anything. Whatever you want. It can be in the world of football. It can be from the wider world. It doesn't matter. It's up to you.
Well, last time we done this segment, we ended up in a debate about chicken pies.
I knew you were going to do this.
Which, subsequently, I hear from the man to my right, I had a chicken pie the other week, just casually brings up in conversation as if I wasn't going to recall the fact that a month before he was debating to the point where he made me put it in the bin.
I'm grown up enough to say when I'm...
So you got it wrong.
I did get it wrong.
Episode 2, for those OG pod listeners.
Day ones or day twos?
I think it was episode 2, chicken pie episode. Disregard everything that man said.
I would like to apologise. I can guarantee you that the same thing will not be happening with the Mexican wave.
That would be brilliant if it did.
I did have a chicken pie, and it wasn't bad. I'm grown up to admit that. But the vast majority of chicken pies that I have had in my life have tasted like sick and they were disgusting. This one chicken pie, I don't know if it was an anomaly. I'm sure we'll find out in future years. I am up to admit
with that suspense building about
what you got
next chicken pie, we'll go firmly on into. So yeah, we've started with this can go a bit rogue, and before I go into this, I'm going to ask you a question.
What you got for me?
So, you know the kind of English delicacy that goes with like an afternoon tea and is often had with jam and clotted cream. How do you pronounce that delicacy?
Scone.
Thank fuck for that. You're exempt from this next rant. People that say scone, get it in the bin. Okay.
Hitting the table is serious.
This could be irrational. But, okay, you're either posh or you have big issues. You're a bit of both. And at risk of starting a class war, it's scone. It's just scone. How can it be scone? Please. Maybe it's just me.
Thing is, they say it's a class war, but I think it does. Isn't scone a southern thing? So we're in the south. So I think we're in the clear here because I think most northerners would have our back.
Yeah,
they'd say scone. If you're up north, you'd say scone.
I don't know how the scone split goes.
I think the scone split is south.
I might have to consult a couple of friends from uni that are north.
You have got some northern acquaintances.
Yes, yeah. a Sheffielder and a Bradforder.
There you go.
I'm sure the correct way to say it.
That's northern. I can confirm.
But yeah, it's just fucking. It actually angers me.
You can't make the I had one of them, but now it's scone. You can't say that if now it's scone.
Yeah,
no.
It just makes no sense.
It'd be terrible for wordplay lovers everywhere.
It really does anger me quite irrationally to the point.
It's weird the things that really get. I think
like what's coming out on this pod is our kind of irrational hatreds, really, but. Something that really does wind me up. If someone goes scone, I instantly think that they're just a bit of a prick. Which, I'm sorry if that applies to you, but it's a scone.
No. Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't really interact with scones on an all that regular basis. So, it's something that's suppressed at the back of my head. If you ever
go for a little morning tea number,
yeah.
It'll all kick
I'll
off.
tell you what, if there's a coffee drink there and I feel someone says scone, we're coming in brawling.
It's all kicking off.
Tea getting flipped over.
Football game on the telly. They're doing the Mexican way.
I'll tell you what.
Bloke in the corner at the bar on the other side. He's having a beaver town. Or it's all.
I hope to God this bottomless brunch we're going to Saturday. If anyone says scone or there's any coffee drinkers there, if there's any,
beaver town merchants,
we could be in trouble.
Kieran has been known to scrap at a bottomless brunch before. I'm not going to lie to you, listener.
That one, but the scrappy poos in the bottomless. So that's mine.
So people who say scone.
Yeah.
Okay. My response. So mine came in the last couple of days when I was thinking about what could I do for free hit. And yesterday and Tuesday, the League Cup was on. The Carabao Cup. The Carling Cup. I think it used to be called the Littlewoods Cup as well, if you go further back than that. And it just reminded me how little, as a football fan, I care about that competition. And I am aware that it is a little bit of big club privilege. I do fully get that. If you're a smaller club like Bradford a few years ago, had a great one to the final. Swansea won that year. I do understand that for those clubs it may be great. But from the position that I am in, as someone that supports a club that typically finishes in the top six, it's a nuisance. It's something that no clubs treat with any respect. It's basically a youth competition with lower league clubs, and one of those already exists. The Johnson Paint Trophy is your big clubs, under 21 teams, and then your clubs in the lower divisions. These things already exist, and it's that, but given more press.
Yeah.
And if I was in charge of football, I think one of the first changes I would make is I would scrap the League Cup.
Don't lie. Maybe Mexican Waves.
Mexican Waves are first on my agenda. That is the campaign I'm running with.
But after that,
Mexican Wave it goodbye is going to be the campaign slogan. But
let it go.
But after that, I'd been off the League Cup. Because you've already got the FA Cup as well, if you want your smaller teams to have that Cup competition against your bigger clubs, going to their grounds and all that kind of thing. The FA Cup's there. What does the League Cup really do?
I agree with pretty much all of those points. My only slight pushback is, firstly, if you say scone, you're a bit of a twat. But on this actual point, it's like, I don't care about the results of the Carabao, if I'm being honest. But I know you've mentioned the Johnson Paint Trophy, which is a very good point, but it is the chance to see the youth players in something maybe a bit more meaningful, where you got the bigger crowd. It's the chance to test them in amongst a few of the first team players as well, and see how they got on. You look at Charles Sago Jr. yesterday; he doesn't get that chance if there's no Carabao Cup.
He'd get that chance in the FA Cup
potentially, but maybe not. Like, if we get a tough third round draw, we're probably going full strength for an FA Cup game.
But if we get a tough League Cup draw, we are more likely to put players like him on the bench rather than start them.
Potentially, but Brentford away is tough enough, and he got to start. But I'll be honest, I do agree with pretty much everything else you said. It's a pretty meaningless competition. It creates fixture congestion. Yeah. No one really cares about it. I'd question, do the players really care? They don't really look like they do.
They don't care. It's one of those competitions that you don't care about until you get to the latter stages.
Yeah.
Like, from a player perspective, when you support your team, you always want them to win.
Yeah.
But whenever we've gone out of the League Cup, which has been pretty regularly, because we've not won it since 1993, but whenever we've gone out of the League Cup, I can't say I've been particularly emotional or sad. And when we go out the FA Cup, it annoys me. Like, when you lose when we lose any big game, it annoys me. But when we go out the League Cup, I just don't care. I don't care about the progress.
Only thing against that was the Birmingham.
I didn't care.
I cared, but mainly because I knew I'd get shit at school when I was in.
You were like 11.
11 at that point. If it was now, I wouldn't really care that much.
Yeah.
But it was the manner in that loss. Yeah. But that's more, I was a young pup. A young pup.
Yeah. Outside of losing a game of football, for me personally, I don't care.
It's a very meaningless.
Yeah.
I think, if there wasn't a Johnson's Paint Trophy as well, it's a chance for the smaller clubs to progress further, a day out at Wembley, that sort of thing. But because, as you said, there is those existing.
The Johnson Paint exists, but even so, the FA Cup exists.
Yeah. Saying that, though, it's a lot harder for a smaller team. You see, every year you'll get a team lower down go far, but not to the point where they're getting a day out at Wembley out of it.
But how often do your smaller clubs end up in the final?
It's true.
I can only think of Bradford in the last.
Yeah. It's true.
I think maybe just over 10 years.
I think more so because of the strength and depth that a lot of the Premier League teams have. It's a lot less common, as you said, for a team to get to the final from the lower leagues. Yeah. Probably go later. I think, was it City that absolutely hammered that team 7-0 in both legs a few years back?
Oh, I'm not sure, but that does. But that's
Oxford or something. But yeah,
that's the exact kind of thing that happens.
It was Burton Albion.
Oh, there you go.
They beat them 9-0 in the first leg, and then nicely they only won 1-0.
I imagine they played like two players.
Yeah, but going back to that point, I think it's the strength and depth the Prem teams have now, which probably makes it a bit even more meaningless. I would be an advocate of Carabao Cup in the bin if it wasn't for.
Go on, convince me. Pull me in.
Okay, picture this: you sat there, not with a cup of coffee. Don't worry. You sat there with a tea. And, you're just minding your business and, it's a nice cup of tea. You think, okay, what will go nicely with this? English culture, sod it. We'll have a little scone with a bit of clotted cream, a bit of jam. Nice little treat. You turn to your left and someone goes to you, do you want a scone? Fuck off, mate.
You have painted such a beautiful picture.
Just imagine the anger. Okay, maybe it's just me. But the anger that would then course through your veins. Even if it's a family member. I can't think of the top of my head, but I'm sure we've had a little afternoon tea or something at some point.
Yeah, scones appear every now and then.
They come out every now and then. Yeah. And someone said scone.
And it just shudders you to the bone.
I'm I thought you were family. I thought I loved you. But maybe not. Maybe not anymore. But in all seriousness, if you say scone, you need to get a grip a little bit and grow up.
We need to come to a decision here, kids.
We do. This is going to be a tough one. I think Carabao Cup's probably got a bit more logic to it. But from a passion point of view, just the word scone, I find it just annoys me.
Well,
It's just an irrational annoyance, but it's probably more niche to me.
That's okay.
So,
it can be niche.
if we go Carabao,
I think...
I won't be too disappointed.
Well, I can see that the anger you have for scone is very similar to my anger for Mexican wave, and I know how deeply I feel that. And on the League Cup, I think clubs of smaller, and maybe even clubs of bigger teams who win it regularly, I don't know, may bite back a little bit. And I think people may have more arguments against the League Cup than they'd have against fools who say scone. So I'm happy to go with, well, happy's a bit strong, but I'm okay with going with,
You're delighted.
over the moon to bin off scone. So Kieran, take it away.
If you say scone instead of scum, I hate to break it to you, but you're going in the bin.
Beautiful. There we go. Another hotly contested segment of In the Bin there, Kiers. I'm glad to have seen it back.
It was a beautiful return and some real heated debate there.
Yeah, some great selections for the bin this week. And as the winner of In the Bin, Kiers, before we say our goodbyes and our farewells, you get to add something up onto the shelf. So as he won, Kieran gets to prevent something from ever being thrown in the bin. He gets to put it up on the nice high shelf next to football compilation videos.
So just for a bit of shithousery and to protect all my artsy little coffee lovers out there, this goes out to you. I'm going to not just shelf coffee, I'm going to shelf annoying, artsy, like coffee shop, personality type coffee drinkers. And they're going on the shelf because you know what? They're great people, Connor. And I will not have it.
Don't
Any
lie
slander against
Don't
them.
lie to me. You may be on that shelf, but I'm taking them screws out. When I get home, those screws are coming out. You're getting gone. That is absolute housery at the highest order.
Had to be done.
It didn't, but that's okay. So, that's all for this week then, kids.
Pleasure as always.
Pleasure as always. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good one.